Hello, hello, hello. Happy Monday, y'all. And welcome to Faith, Purpose, Profit, what I like to call FPP Live, a time we connect every Monday at 7 p.m. EST to connect all things faith with purpose and profit. And, you need all three of them to co-relate, to commingle, to super, to what's the word I'm trying to think of? I don't know. I'm thinking of the intersection of how they all come together. I can't think of that word. Anyway, if you're going to live as the highest and best version of who God created you to be, you've got to have all three at play. I'm beyond excited to be here to pour into you. So tonight, I'm starting a new series with you, and this series is called "A Blueprint is Necessary to Generate Revenue in Your Business." A blueprint is necessary. So I'm going to talk to you over the next 3 weeks. It's a three-part series over all that you need to make sure that you have everything at play. And you listen, there's so many pieces to this, and that's why it's a three-part series. I'm excited to pour into. So I'm going to get started. Hey, Yolanda, I see you, girl. So with that, if you don't have a pen, I'm going to tell you to have a pen because you guys know how I do. I go all the way in. Those of you that are here with me live, if you have questions, thoughts, comments, please post them here. So with that, let's start to dig into this series. Now, listen, so many people want to scale their businesses, but can I tell you that you've got to have, well, let me say this, the one system you need, which is the foundation before you can even scale, is your blueprint. So it's my goal in this series is to walk you through what it is, why you need it, the pieces to it, and everything in between, okay? So a blueprint is a system that allows you to organize, document, and manage building a house. So we've heard of a blueprint in the context to a house. Listen, those of you that are here with me week after week, you've heard me share this example. So before COVID happened, I had the pleasure of redesigning the house I grew up in. And I'm gonna tell you guys what I did originally was I went on Pinterest. I started pulling all the pictures of the cabinets I wanted and the flooring I wanted and the marble countertops and all the things I wanted to up level the house. And what my contractor said is, "Oh, that's great. But if we don't start with the blueprint, we won't know the kind of flooring that will go with your walls and go with your roof. Because ultimately, what you have to understand, and my house is in California, and LA to be exact, that house could crash and burn in an earthquake if all those things didn't work together. Whether it's a earthquake, a hurricane, a tornado, depending on where you live. What most people don't realize is you have to have a blueprint to have the right materials and ingredients that work together. And it's the same way in your business. So, just like I said, now this is the definition of a blueprint from Webster, a system that allows you to organize, document, and manage building a house. So, think about it. A blueprint in your business is a system that allows you to organize, document, and manage how you build your business. I see so many people that do whatever, whenever, however, and they wonder why their business isn't generating revenue because they don't have a blueprint. Now, the second thing a blueprint does is it allows you to get in the position that God created your brilliance to dominate in. By the way, if you guys missed our last series where I talked about dominating your lane, I'm not going to talk about that in this series. Go and listen to it. FPP podcast is where I talked about dominating in your lane. That was a 5-part series, all about purpose, but ultimately, God gave you purpose for you to have dominion. I'm not going to talk about that in this series. This is the next step to that. Okay. So, what you have to realize is this: God is a God of systems. So before I explain to you what I mean by that, let me explain to you what a system is. And the reason I always look these definitions up is if you're like me, I take for granted that I say these words all the time. And because we say them all the time, we don't really understand the deeper context. Some of the words, at least I don't. So I look up the definition just to, when God drops stuff in my spirit, if I'm going to be completely transparent so I understand what the heck God is talking about. So, a system is a group of interconnecting or interrelated parts that act according to form in a unified whole. Let me say that one more time. Webster said that's not me. A group of interconnected or interrelated parts that act according to form excuse me. It's a group of interacting or interconnected parts that act according to form a united whole. So it's like a band. One band, one sound. And even though every instrument has its own part to play, They are playing from one sheet of music. Okay. So if you don't believe that God has got a systems, I want you to go read Genesis. I did a whole conversation about this months ago, but I need you to understand God has got an order. He's intentional. And so God had intent when he created you because you are a part of the order he created and a part of a system he created. So listen, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. That's Genesis 1 1. Now, what's so interesting, if you think about that, I'm going to say it one more time. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That means there was nothing present. Now, it doesn't go into detail, but you realize that God could have, if you go read the entire chapter 1 of Genesis, and I encourage you to do that, it talks about all the things God created in the order, and then he gets to chapter 2, and then he creates man. Now, God could have said in a blink of an eye, he could have created everything all at once. He was intentional. And there was an order by what he created, why he created it. You and I are in that order. And if we're in that order, for us to get in alignment, we also have order in us. Oh, I know I'm getting kind of deep, y'all. That's the blueprint. So hang with me in this 3-part series. I'm going to walk you through so you understand the context to it. But so that you understand it on a deeper level, I want you to think about some systems that we have at play that play in our lives every day and we may not realize it, like the solar system, right? Listen, the solar system is responsible for day and night, sun and rain. Listen, it's cold here now in the DMV area. I don't know if it's cold where you are, but even the shifting of the seasons have to do with the sun and the moon and the atmosphere. All of that is a system God created called the solar system. If you guys have eaten dinner like I did about an hour ago, then guess what system you had at play? Your digestive system. You know, what's interesting is I marvel at the human body and what our bodies are able to do. So when I drink a cup of water or a bottle of water, right? So think about where this water goes. Think about the whole system that's now at play when you drink your water, eat your food, or anything else you do with your body. Deep, right? All of that is a system that God created. So, in the same vein, your brilliance, your purpose has system. You are part of a system and your purpose has a system. I call it a blueprint. Okay. So, in order for you to do the thing that you are called and crafted to do, first you have to be clear on it. That was last series. I'm not going to talk about clarity. But once you get clear, you've got to understand the methodology that allows you to do the thing that you do. Now, why is that important? So, I'm going to walk you through the 5 reasons in this series or in this episode. Your business needs a blueprint. The 5 reasons your business needs a blueprint. Okay. So the first reason is you've got to get in position, get in your position. See, you have territory you're responsible for, and your blueprint speaks to that. Okay. So if you think about it like this, your assignment has to be in alignment with what God has called and crafted you to do. So when I think of alignment, the first thing I think of is tire alignment. So when I was little, my daddy said to me, and I'm gonna tell you the truth. This is what my daddy said to me. He said to me, when a car is out of alignment, I'm not little. I think it was probably around 15 when I got my driver's permit. How many of you guys had a driver's permit? Working toward my license. And my dad was trying to teach me what to do and what not to do to keep my car in proper order for it to work and do the things that I needed it to do. He started talking to me about my car being out of alignment. And he started showing me we were driving down the street. My daddy, who's no longer with us, miss my daddy. He started showing me the cars that were out of alignment. He said, see that car right there? The ones that's riding to the side? And you guys have seen this, and you're going to laugh when you see this now, driving down the street, because you're going to think about me. The cars that are looking like they're kind of lopsided, when they're driving down the street, they're out of alignment, which means ultimately it's really wearing on the tires of the car, which means it keeps it from being able to run in an optimal way. So think about your purpose. If your purpose is out of alignment, do I need to finish that sentence or can you fill it in? And I think so many of us are operating and we're operating sideways. When you feel like you don't but you feel like something is missing, or you feel like you want more meaning in your position at work, or you feel like something is off, that means you're out of alignment. Even if you have a business already and you feel like I could be doing more, or there's something else I don't know what it is, you're out of alignment. If I look at it from another way to look at it is from a football player. Now, what's so funny is, as I was thinking about this a few minutes ago, in about an hour, my husband's gonna be downstairs watching Monday Night Football, screaming at the screen. Some of you will be doing the same thing. But think about football players. Now, listen, y'all, I'm not. Now, I was laughing at my husband last night. We were watching football. And I used to be a cheerleader. And I was like, how do I not know that? And I used to be the captain of the cheerleaders, right? So what I'm going to say might be all the way off, but I need you to roll with me, rock with me. So even in a football team, every player has a part to play. So, and they're playing from a playbook. Okay. So when they go over and their coach says, okay, this is the play we're going to run, the quarterback, this is on offense, by the way, the quarterback says, okay. So there's a, and I don't remember the positions of the plays, but roll with me, rock with me, y'all. Those of you that have seen football, you know, but those of you that are real football buffs, don't laugh at me. I don't know the positions, but roll with me. You're going to get what I'm saying. So in a play, there's a player that is supposed to catch the ball, and the other ones are supposed to throw the other team off. So if this player that's running to catch the ball is out of alignment, he's not going to be in the place that he's supposed to be when the quarterback throws the ball. Even if I'm the quarterback and you try to be the quarterback, we can't have two quarterbacks on this team. So what happens is, when you're not in the arena that God has created you to dwell in, you're like that quarterback or the player that's supposed to catch the ball, and you're in the wrong place in the wrong time. Therefore, the play doesn't fully get executed because you can't catch the ball because you're in the wrong place. See, God has so much for you and for me. If we're not in the place that we're supposed to be when the play is run, you won't catch the ball. Don't believe me? Listen. 1 Corinthians 12 through 17 says this. Now, the body is not made up of one part, but of many. If the foot should say, because I'm not a hand, I don't belong in the body, it would not, for that reason, cease to be part of the body. And if the ear should say, because I'm not an ear, excuse me, if the ear should say, because I'm not an eye, I don't belong to the body, it would not, for that reason, cease to be part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, where would the sense of hearing be? If the whole body were an ear, where would the sense of smell be? Now, listen, this whole passage, I'm going to read the second part. Paul was talking to the folks in the church of Corinthian, or Corinth, I should say, because they were all, and it was such chaos. There was no order. God is a God of systems, which also means God is a God of order. There's a part for me to play, a part for you to play. And they were all over the place. And he was like, yo, wait hold a minute. This is me being Paul. Y'all need to get your life and figure out where you should be. And stop fighting over both people being in this position when God has you in your own position. What's so interesting is the number of people that come to me and say, well, there are other people that do what I do. There are, but there's nobody that does it like you. And when you do it like you, you're in your position. There's a Mookie Betts, and there's a, and I that's the only baseball player I know. There's a, so sad, y'all, right? Like, I don't know, there's Tom Brady, and there's another football player. Doesn't, okay, let me go to basketball. I know basketball better. So there's Magic Johnson, there's Kobe Bryant. There's Kobe Bryant, there's Shaq. Kobe Bryant and Shaq played together on the same team, but they both played different roles. They both had different lanes of genius. Kobe didn't do what Shaq did, and vice versa. Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson played at the same time in the NBA. They did not do the same thing. But if they try to do the same thing, I said this on another Facebook Live, if two people are doing the exact same thing, one of us isn't necessary. I believe this is what Paul was trying to tell the church at Corinth. They were fighting over, and chaos was exuding because too many people were trying to do the same thing when God didn't create us to all be in the same arena. Y'all getting my point? Listen, he goes on to say, this is now 18 through 27. Against the first part I read was 1 Corinthians 12 through 17. I'm going to continue reading. Now, this is 18 through 27. The eye cannot say to the hand, I don't need you. And the head cannot say to the feet, I don't need you. On the contrary, those parts of the body that seem to be weaker are indispensable, and the parts that we think are less honorable, we treat with special honor. And the parts that are unpresentable are treated with special modesty, while our presentable parts need no special treatment. But God has combined the members of the body and has given greater honor to the parts that lacked it, so that there should be no division in the body, but that its parts should have equal concern for each other. If one part suffer, every part suffers with it. If one part is honored, every part rejoices with it. Now you are the body of Christ, and each one of you is a part of it. See, we each have a part to play. When God created each of us, He was intentional. There was no accident. We might have been an accident by our parents, but there was no accident with God. He knew when we would be born. So if He gifted you with purpose and put you here at this time, then there is a role for you to play. The question is, do you know the role? And even beyond that, which is the conversation we had around dominion, do you understand the system, both inside of you and the system you're a part of? This is why you're actually being irresponsible with your gift and you don't take time. Again, listen, a system, I'm going to read this again, okay? A blueprint. Of course, my whole page 2 just flew off the flew off my desk. A blueprint allows you to organize, document, and manage. Okay. So if a system is a group of interacting or interrelated parts, that's taking all those parts and organizing, documenting, and managing. So you too have parts. And it's those parts that make you who you are. So if I use myself for an example, there's one part of me that I'm a producer. I can see how to produce you. There's one part of me that I can see all the things that are in your way. Matter of fact, I can see your purpose before you see it. Some of my girlfriends get mad at me because they'll call me and ask me to go hang out, and I can see all the ways we can make money. That's the way I am wired. And I've organized that to understand part of that is my seer gift, and part of that is how I organize my brilliance. Y'all rolling with me? Which is producing it. Everything I do in my business is producing it or seeing it, period, nothing more. And then everything in between is all the work I do to help you grow your business. Anything outside of that is me being out of alignment with my assignment. It means I'm rolling to the side, like my daddy said. Now, I love Yolanda always has this conversation. Those of you that join us for part 2, she always has this conversation about a should and a could. Totally different. There's things I could do. I'm brilliant at so many things, like many of you. But that's not what I'm called to do. But you've got to understand the difference, which is you getting in alignment with your assignment, which moves us to number 2. A blueprint helps you produce good results. Listen, Genesis 2:15 said this, then the Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to tend to it and keep it. Tend to it and keeping it is producing good results. That's the goal of it. If you don't tend to your purpose and don't keep it, you're not producing anything. And how do you tend to anything, keep it if you haven't systematized it? So listen, I'm working on my next book, y'all. So I'm going to read to you what I wrote in my book because I was like, this is so good. I just need to read it. Nervous for me to say it's so good. And it might change by the time the book comes out. Listen, our purpose is like a garden. So think about it like a farmer watering his crop. And think about your crop as your purpose. Okay. You with me? Our purpose is like a garden. It needs time, attention, and cultivation. It needs time, attention, and cultivation. It also needs the sunshine to nourish it and affirm it, but it also needs weeds, which are difficulties and challenges that help it to grow. Because if you have any difficulties, you'll never grow past the difficulty. So many people give up on that, but that is what helps us produce good results. So if a farmer is going to have a crop of pumpkins right now, what do you think the farmers did in the seasons prior to the harvest that is the fall? Again, it needs time, attention, and cultivation that then allows it to produce the good results. Your blueprint is how you know what kind of time to give it, what kind of attention to give it, and what kind of cultivation to give it. What do I mean by that? If you begin to understand who you are, what you do, and the way you do it, and for who, then you know what to give attention to and what not to. If I really give you an example, listen, if I get a phone call, this happened a few years ago. The Black Lawyers Association called me and asked me to speak on branding. Did I teach branding? No, I don't. But I said to them, tell me what the result is that you want. Oh, well, our lawyers want to make more money. Hello, do I teach that? Yes. So what I said to the then president, this is in Massachusetts, I now live in the DMV, is I can teach that, but here's the shift. So the reason I'm sharing that with you is if you're going to produce good results, it has to be in alignment with who you are. So let me say it in a different way. If I say the slogan, don't leave home without it, who is that? Do you guys know who that is? American Express, right? If I say just do it, who is that? Nike. So slogan is a part of a marketing thing, but here's what I want you to get. If I said just do it and you felt some kind of way, it's because of the result Nike produced that you didn't like. So if I start talking about Yeezys, because of what Kanye's doing out in the marketplace right now, you felt some kind of way. That's because of the result that's being produced. So you've got to understand that your blueprint speaks to what you do and what you don't do. It speaks to who you are and who you aren't. And the things that you aren't, you have no business doing. No business doing. And I see so many entrepreneurs that don't stop long enough to get clear on the methodology that is in you. Whether you realize it or not, there are things you do and you're on autopilot. And you do it in a systemic way. Because you don't take time to understand the system that's in you and the system that God has created you to dwell in, that your business isn't successful. Now I'm giving you the overarching, oh, I'm gonna dig deep. Don't worry. Right. Those of you that say, but I want to know more, right? So I want you to get this. When you produce good results, it builds trust. It allows you to be consistent. And when you're consistent in the marketplace, excuse me, I should have said that first. Consistency builds trust. Okay. It also allows you to have certainty because you know for sure what you're doing, what you're not doing. You're not doing whatever, whenever, however. You're not copying other people because that's not who you be. And so that is what allows you to produce the good results because you start to get clear on what you are and what you're not. Number three, a blueprint makes your business predictable. Now, listen, I was reading an article, and here's what the article said: systems are scalable and repeatable. While setting goals is important, if you aren't creating a process to continue to achieve them, you will fail more often. Your goals, before you can scale, so many people want to scale their businesses, but they haven't stopped long enough. Listen, your blueprint is the foundation of your business. You can't scale if you don't have a foundation that's strong in your business. So when you're setting goals, your goals should be in alignment with your blueprint, with your methodology. Again, so you can stop doing whatever, whenever, however, and it's only in alignment with the steps of your blueprint. So I'm gonna use myself for an example, okay? So in COVID, then there's been this whole new conversation about the great resignation. Have you guys heard about that? That millions of people, as of March of this year, have resigned from their businesses, from their jobs, because either it lacked meaning or they realized it wasn't what their heart desired. And I'm gonna tell you, where your heart is not desiring the work you're doing, is because you're out of alignment with the will of God for you. So because of that, so prior to that moment, I didn't say purpose in my business. I didn't, because purpose is such an overused word. But because of the number of articles that are coming out about purpose and the number of people that are going through the great resignation because they lack meaning, I've been getting to say purpose. I used to say brilliance only. Those of you that have been following me for a while, brilliance is just my up level word for purpose. But because I now know so many people are talking about it, I can now say the word in a different way. But because I know that purpose is the first step in my system, I haven't shifted who I am. But I can predict what I need next because of it. Y'all with me? You get this? And if it's out of alignment with what I talk about, I wouldn't shift what I'm doing or who I'm talking about. Listen, Matthew 7:16 through 20 says this: you will know them by their fruit. Do men gather grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Even so, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a bad tree bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Therefore, by their fruits you will know them. So your blueprint begins to show people your fruit. So we don't see people producing what they're talking about. And I need y'all to get this because so many people come to me and tell me all the coaches they've hired and they've wasted money. It's because listen, don't believe the hype. Pay attention to the fruit. Your fruit is what produces the good results, and it makes your business predictable. Meaning that people can see, oh, I know what Nicole's going to do. I know what Nicole's going to teach. And from on my end, because I have a blueprint, I can stay true to it. Am I making sense, y'all? See, when you have a blueprint, your work is fine tuned. You know what you are and what you're not. You're not doing everything, and your business is easily replicatable. Now, we'll talk about more of that in number 4. But I need you to really, really get this. When you understand the recipe that makes up what you do and you can speak to it, then people trust you because so many people talk about what they know. Excuse me, so many people talk about what they do. We're going to do this or we're going to do that. Like, have you ever been to a networking event and people are looking at you like, because you're like going into all the stuff we're going to do together and they're in overwhelm, but you're excited. So you're excited because it's your intellectual property. And yes, they need it. But when you're speaking about it from an expert place, you are overwhelming people. Instead of saying, here's what you're going to get, that's a predictable result. When you understand your methodology, you can speak from predictable result instead of just from what you're going to do, which will overwhelm people. People don't care what you know. They want to know, what do I get? What's in it for me? And it's your blueprint. You're systemizing your brilliance. You understand the methodology that's in you and how you go about doing what you do. So then you articulate it that makes the difference. hmm So in COVID, I could shift, not shift what I do, but shift how I talk about it because I know my first step in my own blueprint is purpose. And because I saw that the conversation was shifting in the atmosphere, what's so deep is last Thanksgiving, God told me to start talking about it. And then the March after Thanksgiving is when the whole report came out about the Great Resignation. I didn't know that was coming. But because I already had that as part of my methodology and I had been studying it and learning it, I could speak to it no problem and not shift. Again, I see so many people that are steadfast and, excuse me, are not steadfast and unmovable. They're shifting with the wind because they say, oh, they're making money doing that. So they change that instead of being true to who God created you to be. What happens is when you do that, you're out of alignment with your assignment. Now, those are just the first 3 steps. Y'all know me well enough to know I got more for you. So let me just remind you what the first 3 steps are. Number 1 is you really getting in position. There's a position God created you to play in. Do you know it? There's a level of responsibility that God put on you. He trusted you to tend to the garden and keep it. Are you tending to it and keeping it? Number 2, it helps you produce good results. And number 3, it leads you to your business being predictable. See, people want people they know, like, and trust. And when you're predictable, that means that they trust you. That's a whole level of trust that makes a difference in your ability to be the change you were meant to be in this world. Especially because there's so many people out here in these coaching consulting streets and so many people that are being fraudulent. This is why I read the Bible verse about they will know you by the fruit that you bear. Because of that, so many people are being taken advantage of. But when people know who you are and you don't shift, you say uncompromising. You do the thing you're called to do, and you do that easily and effortlessly when you have a blueprint. Because then you know what conversations to have and what conversations not to have. Oh, I'm going to dig more into this in part 2, y'all. So I want to invite you to join me for part 2. Those of you that don't know that I do part 2 tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m. EST, fpbbreakfast.com. Listen, number 4 is the yummiest one of them all. I think, of course I do. Well, I think you probably will too. So when I invite you to join me, there's two more steps. But this, listen, in this three-part series, I'm going to dig deep because what I see so many people do is they have businesses, and many people that I meet are brilliant. And many people I meet, dare I say, have been in business for years. But because they don't take the time to get clear on the methodology that they do what they do, they're leaving transformation behind. Yes, they're leaving money on the table too. But bigger than money is transformation. So I cannot wait to pour more into you tomorrow. Again, 8:30 a.m. EST. I'm going to invite you to join me in Clubhouse. By the way, if you go to fppbreakfast.com, you also get an invitation to join Clubhouse, those of you that aren't in Clubhouse. So with that, that's it for our first conversation. Here's the first thing I want to ask you to do. If you've got any value out of what I shared today, please below tell me. Tell me the value you got. If you have questions about what I shared, share that as well, because I may just use your question in part two. All right. So, with that, again, thank you for joining me. I look forward to pouring more into you. All right. I will talk to you soon. Bye, y'all.